This case takes place in Melbourne, Australia, in the year 2020. Celeste Manno was a 23-year-old woman who lived in Melbourne, Australia. She lived with her mother and younger brother, and she also had an older half-brother. From a young age, Celeste was known for her kindness and vibrant spirit. She was described by those who knew her as a beacon of love and joy. She was incredibly close to her mother, and she loved her deeply. Celeste's mother remembers her as a beautiful and kind woman, and it was this combination of beauty and kindness which caught the attention of an absolute monster. For 2.5 years, Celeste worked at a call centre in Melbourne. She was an incredibly popular and respected team member. Whilst working there, she began a relationship with a co-worker named Christopher, but the couple kept their relationship to themselves. But it was also at this call centre where she bumped into a 35-year-old man by the name of Louis Seiko. Celeste had no idea, but upon seeing her, Louis developed a deep infatuation for her. But this infatuation was extremely dangerous. Louis kept himself to himself at the start, merely admiring Celeste from a distance. But they worked in the same building, so the two would cross paths on occasion, but they would rarely, if ever, interact on a deep or meaningful level. Louis had begun working at the call centre in April of 2018 as a customer service operator. Several months later, Celeste became his manager. However, in June of 2019, Louis was fired from the company due to his poor performance. Because Celeste was his manager, she was given the job of escorting him out of the building. She did so with kindness. She wished him all the best and extended her hand out as a sign of respect. But as she did this, Louis lunged forward and kissed Celeste on the cheek. This was inappropriate enough, but the way he did this, it made Celeste feel deeply uncomfortable. She was rather taken aback by this, and she spoke with her colleagues, boyfriend and family about this strange encounter. But this kiss seemed to trigger something in Louis. It was at this point where he became fully obsessed with Celeste. Louis made his way home after being fired, and then fired up his computer. He began tracking down Celeste's various social media accounts, including her Instagram, and around a week after being fired, he plucked up the courage to send her a message. Louis declared his feelings for her. Celeste saw these messages and replied. She politely responded in such a way that made it abundantly clear that she had no interest in him or a relationship. But Louis was not deterred by this rejection, not even one bit. He began sending a barrage of messages until she blocked him on Instagram. And this was but the start. A week later, Louis made another Instagram account and sent more and more messages. Celeste didn't respond, but these messages did concern her. She decided it would be best to ignore him and hoped he would just go away on his own. But the messages didn't stop. They kept coming and coming. Louis relentlessly declared his love, telling Celeste he wanted to be with her more than anything. Eventually she replied again, pleading Louis to cease all communication with her and just leave her alone. He was then once again blocked. Round and round in circles, Louis would make another account and get blocked, make another account and get blocked again. It got to the point that Celeste's mother even sent him a message telling him to just leave her alone, but the accounts and messages just kept coming. He then amped up his vile behaviour. In December of 2019, he sent Celeste a large number of explicit and derogatory messages. These messages contained detailed accounts of what he wanted to do with her if he could have her in a room alone. Upon seeing how his tune had changed, Celeste began to fear for her own safety. She reported the matter to her work colleagues, who encouraged her to inform the police. And so she did just that. But one day, Celeste was at her place of work, and she looked outside of the window that led to the car park. There, sitting in a car, watching, was Louis. Celeste and her family went to the police again, but nothing really was even done. It's worth noting right now for viewers, if someone behaves like this towards you, they are indeed on the path to murder. They are in a state of mind where they are already ready to kill. This continued for months. A whole year and 1 month passed by, and Lowe was still continuing this disturbing behaviour. On the 1st of July 2020, Celeste and her mother went to the police station again and reported the continued stalking. Celeste produced each of the messages which she had received, and finally a police officer took action. 2 days later, the courts granted a Personality Safety Intervention Order, otherwise known as a PSIO, and this was handed to Lowe. With this, all communication ceased, and there was a feeling of relief. Celeste hoped that this would now all be over, but it wasn't. On the 10th of August 2020, Lowe was arrested and questioned by the police. He admitted to repeatedly contacting Celeste from various Instagram accounts, but he arrogantly expressed that there was nothing illegal about his actions and that sending these messages was therapeutic for him. The police explained to him that these messages were causing a great deal of stress for Celeste and her family, to which he replied, if Celeste was that distressed by the messages, then she should have not read them and signed out of her account. Following the questioning and arrest, Lowe was released from custody pending further investigation. Meanwhile, this whole situation was indeed causing Celeste a great deal of emotional stress. She became deeply worried that something horrible would happen to her. Because Lowe was known to lurk outside the call centre in his car and watch Celeste, the call centre created a safety plan for her. Other members of staff would escort Celeste to her car at the end of each shift. She even told multiple colleagues that she was scared that Lowe would one day kill her. Celeste had good reason to worry. On the 11th of August 2020, Celeste uploaded a photograph with her and her boyfriend, and made this photograph her profile picture. That very same day, Lowe went to a local supermarket and purchased a large kitchen knife. He had seen the profile picture, and he became enraged. On the 15th of August 2020, Lowe sent Celeste a 3.5-page email. Celeste did not open this email and reported the incident to the police. In this email, he pleaded with Celeste from pursuing the PSIO and to drop her complaints to the police. He even claimed that he had no further interest in her, explaining that he was the real victim in this situation. But by just contacting Celeste, he had breached the PSIO, and so she and her family went to the police again, and informed them that he had violated the order against him. And so the police got in contact with Lowe again, which is something that likely caused him great anger. To Lowe, he was the victim. The police, Celeste, and everyone else, they were the real bad guys. In the year of stalking, Lowe had been looking online, trying to locate where Celeste actually lived, and he was successful. He was somehow able to locate an image of Celeste's house. He was then able to identify her suburb from her Instagram account and compared it to Google Maps, and with this he found her address and exactly where she lived. On numerous occasions, Lowe would drive to her house and observe her from afar. He would drive by at night and watch. How many times he did this isn't exactly clear, but it's presumed that he did this quite a lot. On the 16th of November 2020, Lowe decided to do the unthinkable. He was sat at home unable to sleep. According to him, he was such a victim and was so depressed that he struggled to ever fall asleep. So in the early hours of the morning at 3:22 AM, he got up, grabbed a hammer and the kitchen knife he had bought just a few weeks before, and got into his car. He then began driving towards the home where Celeste lived with her family. The only other person at home at the time was Celeste's mother, Aggie. Aggie knew about Lowe, but she had no idea that he would be capable of such horrors. Lowe drove past the home to make sure that Celeste was in, and unfortunately, she was. He saw her car parked up on the driveway. Lowe drove round the block, and then, at around 3:48 AM, he parked his car a short distance from Celeste's home, roughly a 2-minute walk away. He exited his vehicle and began walking towards the home, carrying with him the hammer and the knife. It also seems that he was somehow able to tell which room Celeste was living in too, possibly by lurking outside her home in the previous months. Lowe jumped over the side fence and gained access to the backyard before proceeding towards Celeste's bedroom at the rear of the premises. Lowe was now right outside her window, and Celeste was fast asleep, blissfully unaware that the man who had tormented her for over a year was now only meters away. Lowe tightened the grip of his hammer, and with one large swing, he smashed the window before climbing through. As he climbed through, jagged glass ripped through layers of his skin. As he gained entrance to her bedroom, he was determined to get inside and get to her. Celeste awoke to see the man she feared the most crawling through her broken window, a sight which must have been absolutely terrifying. Lowe wasted no time. He gripped his knife and lunged towards Celeste. In the panic, she tried to cover herself with her arms. Lowe attacked Celeste with a knife in a disturbing frenzy. He was beyond crazed. He began stabbing her over and over again. Lowe knew that Celeste's mother was inside the home, and it would only be a matter of time before she would check on the noise he made by smashing the glass. In total, Lowe stabbed Celeste over 23 times. He caused multiple sharp force injuries to her body, including to her chest, abdomen, back, legs, arms, and scalp. She also suffered several defense-style wounds to her forearms and hands. During the attack, Lowe had managed to stab her directly into the heart, and as quickly as Lowe had come, he had gone. After attacking Celeste, he dropped the knife on the bedroom floor and left via the broken window, again cutting himself open in the process. He then dropped the hammer in the yard, where it was later found by police. Lowe had sustained several lacerations to his hands during the attack and had left a blood trail behind him, leading directly back to his car. He had ran back to his vehicle to flee the scene. From pulling up, walking 2 minutes to Celeste's home, breaking the window, stabbing her, and returning to his car, Lowe was only gone for a total of 2 minutes and 39 seconds. This whole attack had been unbelievably quick. Meanwhile, Celeste's mother had heard a loud crash, and she went to investigate. She opened the bedroom door and peeked inside, seeing something that no mother should ever have to witness. Inside, she saw her beloved daughter in her bed, surrounded by an extreme amount of blood. Celeste's mother said that she literally couldn't comprehend what she was seeing, and she attempted to help her daughter, but she struggled to lift her from the bed. She then saw that the floor was covered with broken glass. After attempting CPR, her mother ran to her own bedroom and called 000. The call connected at 3:56 a.m. When the police and ambulance arrived on the scene, they found Celeste on the bedroom floor covered in blood, with her mother desperately trying to revive her, shouting, "Please don't leave me." The paramedics did all they could, but her injuries were far too great. Celeste was declared dead only moments later. While this was all happening, Lowe was driving like a madman. His destination was the police station. At 3:57 a.m., Lowe arrived at the police station. He was driving recklessly and collided with a bollard outside the station. Before he could even enter, he was confronted by 2 police officers. This was all part of his twisted plan. In a bid to appear crazy to the police, Lowe made some references to what he had done, including the words, "She's dead. Go and have a look at the crime scene." Lowe then began pleading with the officers to pull out their guns and shoot him. By this time, the police in the station became aware of Celeste's attack. While speaking to the police, Lowe said, "You know what happened. It's all your fault." Lowe was brought into a room to be questioned by the police, and an investigation soon began. Lowe had a plan: act insane and try and get away with the murder. He admitted to the police that night that he went in and out of Celeste's house very quickly, but he downplayed his awareness of what he did to her, claiming that it was too dark to properly see, and that his memory of these events was fuzzy. Surprisingly, LeWay did not accept responsibility for killing Celeste, suggesting that the blame lay with law enforcement and other people. His argument was that because of how he was treated by the police and Celeste in regards to the stalking, he had become a different person, a person that he said had been transformed into someone who he had no control over. It was everyone's fault but his, a truly vile lack of accountability. LeWay then claimed that he went to Celeste's house because he wanted the pain and the voices to stop. He also claimed that his mental health had been declining since the lockdowns in 2020, and this had been exacerbated by the stress of what had happened with Celeste. Following the police interview, LeWay was charged with Celeste's murder and was remanded in custody. LeWay was then assessed by mental health professionals as the legal proceedings began. During these proceedings following the murder of Celeste, forensic evaluations were conducted. A forensic psychiatrist testified that LeWay had exaggerated symptoms of mental illness in an attempt to avoid trial. A psychiatrist concluded that he was trying to elicit sympathy and that he was very much capable of understanding the difference between right and wrong at the time of the case taking place. So LeWay stooped even lower. He tried to claim that an entity he called Isha had encouraged him to kill. He said he would hear voices telling him to go out and harm Celeste, and that by carrying out the murder, he thought these voices would stop. Multiple evaluations were conducted, and it was concluded that he was just putting this on. It was all a twisted act. However, according to court documents, it was also found that LeWay did have an undiagnosed extreme personality disorder, along with depression and body dysmorphia. Despite these conditions, it was determined that he was not experiencing a psychotic episode during the crime. One doctor also noted that his risk of reoffending was extremely high, and that if he was ever released, he would likely stalk other women pretty soon after. His personality disorder was categorized as extremely severe, highly unusual, and even atypical amongst people who commit serious violent offences. Initially, LeWay pleaded not guilty to the murder of Celeste, which is something that caused great distress to her family members. In January of 2024, the trial began. Forensic psychiatrists testified against him. One psychologist painted a picture of LeWay's life. It was said that his early childhood was traumatic and unstable, and that he was frequently bullied. LeWay was never able to sustain any intimate relationships in his entire life, and he had difficulty establishing friendships and social connections over his lifetime. According to LeWay's family, he became more and more isolated and withdrawn during his teenage years, and in the years prior to the killing, he became more reclusive, spending most of his time in his bedroom in his parents' house. In February of 2024, LeWay changed his plea to guilty, and he was subsequently sentenced to 36 years in prison with a non-parole period of 30 years. The judge acknowledged his mental health issues, but emphasized that he knew exactly what he had done. The court recognized the devastating impact of the crime on Celeste's family and friends, but concluded that a life sentence was not warranted due to his personality disorder, which they claimed reduced his moral culpability. It documented that throughout the trial, LeWay showed no signs of remorse for what he did and the impact he caused to Celeste's family. It seemed that in his eyes, she deserved exactly what she got, and that he was the poor victim in this scenario. During the sentencing, LeWay did not make a personal statement or offered any apology to the family. Celeste's mother Aggie has expressed profound disappointment with the sentence that was handed down to LeWay. She has stated that it was outrageous and unbelievable that he was granted mercy when he showed no mercy to Celeste. She felt that the justice system had failed her daughter by not imposing a whole life sentence. She is also worried that if he is ever released, he will do this to another innocent victim and another family will be destroyed. Following the tragic death, Aggie has become dedicated to helping protect other people who become victims of stalking. She has also publicly criticized the existing justice system expressing that it failed to safeguard her daughter despite clear warning signs. She has called for the implementation of stricter measures, including the use of ankle bracelet monitoring for individuals accused or convicted of stalking to prevent potential threats. If this would have been used, it would have saved Celeste's life. Celeste's mother has also stated that she struggles greatly with the fact that she was killed under her watch. She has said it is something that she will have to live with for the rest of her life.